Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Autumn, the Astro Chick, and in today's video I wanted to discuss eclipse season for 2024, which is kicked off with the lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra on March 25th, 2024. Our ancestors were terrified of eclipses, but as modern folk we have a better understanding of what eclipses are. We can predict them for thousands of years, look back into the past and see when they happened. So it gives us this false sense of security where we're like, oh, we know what's going on. But eclipses have always had change associated with them. They're the portents of change. They're the omens, of the rise and fall of nations, of the birth and death of kings. They're associated with, I found a real interesting one the other day. It had to do with the solar eclipse that occurred in 1142, and they say that it was that solar eclipse that brought together the 5 Iroquois nations to, end their war with one another and create a peaceful type of resolution. And I'm looking into that chart actually, and it's very interesting. So we can say historically eclipses are associated with, big things, big things. And this particular lunar eclipse that we have on the 25th, it is very subtle, right? But let's look at the meaning of it. It's ruled by Venus. The moon is with the south node. So there are Venus issues that we need to release between now or between this eclipse and the solar eclipse on the 8th of April. Think back to October of last year, October 2023. That's when we had the solar eclipse in Libra, which planted that seed, that Venusian seed of whatever this issue is, right? And so now we're here at the full moon in this cycle. And the full moon is the realization, the consciousness of what this issue is. You know exactly what this issue is. You know what you need to let go of. Venus issues. She rules money, love, relationships, our desire, okay? How have your feelings changed? Do you no longer want something that you did before? You probably already know what this thing is that I'm talking about. And the full moon eclipse is this portal where you can go in and kind of like release that which you need to release. Like the change is coming, so be part of the change, right? Because that's the best, I would say, like to have some effect or influence on what the change is. I want to be like making the moves towards this change. So search your hearts, what is it that you know that you need to let go of, because now's the time. This eclipse on the 25th of March is subtle. It's a penumbral lunar eclipse. So the shadow, the Earth's penumbra is the shadow on the moon. It's very, we'll see a shadow, but it's not like a blood moon. People get excited about blood moons. That's a total eclipse of the moon is what a blood moon is. But this is just a shading over the moon, and it's going to occur about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to be visible in America. Check it out. With Venus as the ruler of this lunation, I'm going to look at her condition, which is fantastic because she is in the sign of Pisces, which is her exaltation. When planets are in their exaltation, they can be all that they want to be. In Pisces, Venus is very romantic and kind and loving and universal. There's like an unconditional love to Pisces, unconscious type of connection emotionally to others. And so there's a lot of feeling wrapped up in Venus. And the really great thing about Venus is not only her condition, but the fact that she does come into a conjunction with Saturn. But I think that because she's got the upper hand with rulership, well, with her condition, her exaltation, I think she's teaching Saturn a thing or two. She's going to give him some advice. I think that Venus, being so social, every time she comes up to a planet, she has a conversation with them. She's much like Mercury in that sense. But it's more like she's trying to relate to them. So I think that Venus coming out of the conjunction to Saturn, she was giving him some tips on how to row his boat, But the aspect that I'm most excited about would be the fact that Venus is in a sextile to Jupiter. And this is why it's so yummy, because Jupiter is in Venus's sign and Venus is in Jupiter's sign. We call that mutual reception. And when you have two planets in mutual reception, they are buddy buddies. They're like friends with benefits. They have keys to each other's houses. They want to help each other out. They really like each other. So this is good energy. And the sextile allows, it's like an opportunity that if you use your intelligence to work an opportunity, but you have to put effort into it, then goodness, you can reap abundance from that, because Jupiter and Venus are the benefics. Venus is the lesser and Jupiter is the greater, but they're both associated with abundance and fertility and fecundancy. So, you know, it's a really great energy to use, that culminating full moon energy where you know what you need to do, right? So go after the things that you want. Venus is the desire factor. What do you want? Because Jupiter's like, let's go, girl. Jupiter's ready to help you embrace the change and then flourish afterwards. I promise. Jupiter is the undercover daddy of the whole scenario because Jupiter rules Pisces, and both of the rulers of the nodes at the times of the eclipses, both lunar and solar, are in the sign of Pisces. Also, America's new moon in its secondary progressed chart is occurring at the same time as this lunar eclipse, and it is occurring in the sign of Pisces as well. So there's an undercurrent of Pisces energy being kind of in charge as far as the descending rulership to Jupiter, right? And also the new moon for America occurring in Pisces at 19 degrees, which I'll do a separate video on that. But Jupiter is kind of pulling the strings. He's the one making the plans and giving the instructions. And that's good in a way, because Pisces is a spiritual sign and Jupiter there is filled with belief, right? And there's a power to belief. My friends and I, my Sag gang, we were going to do an episode about the power of belief, because it's amazing how belief can change the fabric of our lives, you know. And I'm not just speaking of religion, I'm speaking of believing in yourself or believing in others or trying to make the world a better place. You know, there's a lot of things we can believe in, and everyone has their own truths, but they're very powerful truths, and they're very subjective because we live individualistic lives. I think that the nodes are teaching us something, because the North Node is in Aries, which is very individualistic. The South Node is in Libra, which is very socially oriented and more of a we rather than an I sign like Aries is. So, you know, we're letting go of partnership, and we're supposed to embrace some sort of individuality, a sense of self, a way forward in finding our own truth. I think a lot of people would do that this year, for good or ill, right? Because it's election season, and unfortunately we have a lot of AI going on out there, a lot of talking points and fear mongering. So, you know, let's try to use the Piscean influence that's here to be optimistic and to have belief in the good side, like the Jupiter qualities. Jupiter is the greater benefic, so he's positive oriented, he's optimistic, he's hopeful, right? He believes in the future. So the other thing is that Jupiter is applying a conjunction to Uranus at 21 degrees of Taurus on 420, baby. Anyway, I'm going to make a video on that too, but this is important because new pathways are being developed. We are turning into the future, right? We're crossing the bridge between then and then. So we're in the great in between, folks. You know, in 2024, I see it as this time of adjusting, right? I think the theme of this year is to be mutable, be changeable, welcome change, flow with it, you know, because that's all that's going to happen in the next like 3 years. It's ramped up change. Okay, so what I fear is that in 25 and 26, when we get these major, like, where our everyday lives are you know, so different than they were before. I'm going to do a video on it, but automation and the jobs are changing. Everything is changing. And I think people, if they don't realize it and consciously work towards making those changes work for their own lives, then they're going to get freaked out. And a lot of people are going to, you know, not do very well in 25 and 26. We're at a turning of generations. We are in a time of great crisis. And so Jupiter in conjunction at Uranus is like an evolutionary point where we will be inspired to build a better future because of the crisis that we're going through. I see it as a good thing, but also it's going to shake things up, you know. There's always a little good in the bad and bad in the good, so we'll see what we get from that. The nodes of the moon are the reason for the season. Okay, it's the close proximity of the nodes to the moon and the sun that create the eclipses. And just a few things, interesting things about nodes. They move backwards through the zodiac. So they ingress at the 29th degree. Evolutionary astrology sees the 29th degree as the beginning and 0 degrees as the culmination of lifetime. So it's a little backwards when we look at it that way, but it's very interesting. The nodes are always opposite one another by sign and degree. So they're not actual celestial bodies. They're just mathematical points in the sky. Still important though. When studying the nodes, I found the most information through 2 branches of astrology. The first was Vedic and the other was evolutionary. And they look at the nodes differently, but there are some characteristics that are similar. But in Vedic astrology, they consider the north node, they call it Rahu, they call the south node Ketu. Rahu is associated with the principle of increase, and Ketu is associated with decrease. They have a more of a negative connotation to the south node, more of a positive to the north node. In evolutionary astrology, they see the north node as your soul's evolution. It's your life's path and your purpose forward. And they see the south node as your past life experiences, all of those inherent tendencies that you're born with, and any skill you bring with yourself to this lifetime. And it's also about hang-ups that we bring with us, because there are things, issues we carry around throughout all of our lifetimes, and it takes a certain event or a certain, you know, evolutionary work to let those things go. So when we do let go of our hang-ups from our south node, it's a spiritual evolution, because we're changing ourselves in a very deep, resonant type of way. So the north node is about evolving forward, and possibly the south node is about evolving inward spiritually. It's about soul evolution, ultimately. These are the eclipses of 2024. The first 2 are visible in America, so those are the ones I'm going to concentrate on. I just spoke about the one on the 25th, the lunar eclipse in Libra. And then we also have the great North American solar eclipse on April 8th. That is going to be exciting. It is an amazing spectacle, so be safe, everyone. Thanks for hanging, everyone, and please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell and you'll be notified when I make new videos, which I plan on doing. So until then, have a great time, everyone. Bye.